For all those who've joined in late, please look into your chat box. There will be a Google form for certification, and there will be a Slido website with the event code. So you can keep yourself logged into the event for an interactive session. We're just waiting for the participants to join in. We will start at 4:05.
Just wanted to check if the mic is working. Is it okay?
Yes, it's working. Audible.
Yeah, that's the only thing I wanted to check. Yes.
Yes, it's working. I request all the participants to mute your mic so that we do not have a background feed.
There is a disturbance noise, right?
Yeah, I request all the participants to mute your mic. The mute all is not available in the Gmeet format, so please kindly mute your mics. TS, is it okay now?
Yeah, it is. Only in the bit in between there was some noise. Now it is perfect. Yes.
I think somebody joined in with the mic.
Probably fan or something. It happens.
TS, we can wait for another 5 minutes. People are just joining in, and because it's the first year, I think we already have 42. So we'll just wait for another 5 minutes for people to join in.
Okay.
And yeah, in the meanwhile, I'll just start playing the background. Yeah, TS, you're able to
Yes.
access the
Yes.
present detail?
Yeah, I'm just going to talk. For the questions, I'll let you know. Not a problem. Not a problem at all.
Okay, we will just wait for Esther to join us. I'm not able to see her.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
I am here, Narayani. Can you see me?
Yeah,
I think it's 4:10.
yeah. So shall we start, Esther?
Yeah, yes.
We're around 65. Should we wait or shall we
Yes.
start?
We can start. We can start with the introduction and then we'll go on to Slido and then we'll continue.
Sorry?
We can start, Narayan.
Okay. Good evening, all the patrons who have tuned in for today's session. I am Narayani, Associate Professor, School of Architecture and Interior Design. I will be your host for the day. I would like to thank P. Satish Kumar, our Dean, School of Architecture and Interior Design, who has given us this wonderful opportunity to connect all the alumni and the architectural fraternity. I welcome our star speaker for the day, Architect Tirupura Sundari, who is going to give us a talk on post-COVID native artisans and techniques. Our session will be moderated by Professor Esther Sherin, Academic Coordinator, School of Architecture and Interior Design, SRM IST. I request all the participants to kindly mute your mic to have a hassle-free session. Participants can also log into slido.com. I think the link is posted in the chat. So please log into Slido, and you can post your queries and questions in the app so that it will be answered after the session. Yes. Over to you, Esther.
It says she left the meeting.
I'm sorry.
It says
I'm sorry, the back button almost exits the screen. I'm sorry. Thank you for the introduction, Narayani. I take great pleasure welcoming every one of you to this alumni series. I know how the feeling is so good to see all of the faces of the alumni and the students and the faculty be herein. Uh, and this is the first day of our series. We have a session from May 1st to May 15th to have all the alumni of our SRM join us in this beautiful and wonderful session, which has been an opportunity to us, if not for COVID-19. And I'm really happy to introduce to you our speaker of the day today, Architect Tirupura Sundari Sevil. I really had the opportunity to meet her just before the COVID lockdown. And here is a short introduction about her. Tirupura Sundari Sevil is an architect planner, having studied in India, UK, and France with scholarships. She is a storyteller, educator, a conservation professional working with artisans of traditional materials and techniques as well. She runs an architectural consultancy called the Studio Conclave and a social initiative called Nam Veedu, Nam Boor, Nam Kadai. She curates stories on social issues, documents, and uses traditional techniques in her projects and works as a consultant for NGOs, schools, and colleges. She is also a material restorer and conservator, working closely with the underprivileged women and children. She shows balance in both her office and social work. Her work has impacted a lot of families, children, and artisans, and have been awarded for the same in multiple occasions. Thank you for being a part of us today, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're good to go?
Yes, ma'am, over to you.
Yes, thank you all. It's totally my pleasure to be here. For the past 4 to 5 years, our engagement with the artists. Okay, is there a disturbance?
Participants, please mute your mic.
Okay.
Uh,
So
yeah.
our past years interaction or engagement with the artisans, I'm not very sure, or to call it that, a lot of artisans have benefited from our work. I would say we have been privileged and lucky to have been working with these artisans to learn firsthand what are the different things they do and how it is happening and all that. And when this particular lecture session, when you asked, the first thing that came to my mind was we have been getting so many calls from like March 18th at that time till now about what are the. I'm not just concentrating here about the artisans related to architecture, but artisans generally as well. Your handloom artisans, your people who do organic farming, people who do artisanal cheese, lot of others. We've been getting a lot of calls from them because we've had done projects with them, but their main worry was, will this resume? Will people resume to working on this? But one point which they told, which really struck us at that time, was they said, we are used to this. We are used to people ignoring. We are used to people not taking up, I mean, giving us projects. We are used to not being recognized for our work. So this is like a part of our work. But this particular condition of COVID is really dangerous in terms of their livelihood, because they they have products or they have techniques, and only when there are a lot of people buying them or engaging them for their work, there is no way they could sustain their livelihood. So I would like to go a little bit back. Are we done with the first question, Esther ma'am? Is that done? You want to
No,
go to the
yes.
slide?
We will now request our participants to go to slido.com, and there is a question which is posted for you. So we kindly request you to give your opinion based on that question. Mention any one traditional technique or material in art and architecture.
Okay, before you start answering, logging into Slido and all, we wanted to ask this question because sometimes we are very focused on the things we are used to. We don't generally talk about the other kind of art-based or artisan-based techniques which are so much in India. So to give a little brief about it, when did these techniques or when did these art forms lose out on practice or when did we stop using them? The crux would be most of us would have heard the story from industrial revolution and then invention of machine and all that. But how did it directly impact them was first point was mass production. Second one was ease of buying. So the essence of this question is to understand that because there are architects participating, there are non-architects, there are few artists who are also in the webinar. So just to understand what does it mean to you? What does these techniques mean to you? Is it done, Esther ma'am? Can we continue? The answers.
Yes, we can give them a minute to answer. So then
Yeah.
finally we can
Yes.
have the answers. We are having people answering the questions. Yes, it's going up.
Okay. Yeah, that's lovely. So the reason for asking this is most of the time this doesn't happen. This engagement, as much as we want to use the technique, we don't talk much about the artisan or the artist involved in it. And I think May 1st is the right time to talk about that, being the Kurepala Dinam or something which is always treated as a holiday, but a day to give respect and honor to the people who are toiling around us, not just few of them, but a lot of them. So that's why I thought this particular topic would be apt for it. So once the answers are done, we can look at the answers. So I assume a lot of us would have spoken about uh, architecture-based stuff, but there are these wonderful terracotta artists, people who work with leather, people who work with paper mache, people who work with jute jewelry, banana fibers, and so many others. So once we get the screen on, we can build up the discussion based on that. Is it done, Esther ma'am?
Yes, it's done. And Narani, can we have the screen, please?
Yeah, are you able to see it?
No,
See the
only when
screen?
you. I think only when you share it, we'll be able to see it. I guess.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Is it happening now? I can see Slido is on.
I think you should share your screen.
Share screening is still not happening. Yeah, 1 second.
Yeah, if that's
Just
how
doing
not
it.
happening for another 1 minute, probably we can continue and get back to it later as well.
Your entire screen. Yes. Yeah.
Someone is asking for the
Yes.
code and the someone is asking for the code
The code is
in the
right there.
chat.
Is the screen available? TS? The screen is
Yeah,
available.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
The
Okay,
code is
very nice.
on the right side. If you can see, join at slido.com. Hashtag
Okay,
ACTS010520. So the code is
okay,
always available on the screen. So please, any poll you can log into that.
okay.
Yeah.
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 Thank you
That
so
yes.
much. Thank you. Yeah. So
So
then
we
that is
have the answer.
stone cutter, terrace, pen, timber, red, roofing, and then someone has written their name. I'm sure all of us are art. Ramp dirt, stone, Madras, lime, clay. I assume Madras is Madras terrace or just by itself Madras. Madhubani art, plastering, dung. Someone said dung. Okay. Terrace, wall painting, there is Kodam. Okay, I'm happy that most of the time when we talk about that, I see only architectural terms coming in. Architectural terms coming in. But now I could see that there are a lot of uh, smaller things as well. The column was here. Precisely the reason we wanted to get these words from all of you. The column was there. There was this dung. I don't know if that was a funny answer or something serious, but seriously, it plays a major role in your when you want to emphasize your front side of your house, and then you put the dung, you put manjal, and then column. It becomes a part of the indigenous practice patterns. So the reason was to understand. So there was something about Madhubani art, there was something about terracotta, there was something about leather and all that. So there is a reason why people started or stopped using these techniques, mainly because there is this complaint. I think a lot of architects here in the group would agree that the main reason we say it's very expensive, right? It's very, very expensive. And then second part is, no, the artisans don't listen to us. And the third common one is they don't listen to us. Or where do we find these artisans? Or who are these people? Where do we even find these people? And the last one, or the most interesting observation which people always say is, they say they do good work, but how do we find whether they do good work? How do you validate it? Because the common example is, when you take cement, when you take glass, when you take concrete, when you take any modern material, you have a list of things. Okay, these are the characters that should be there. But for a traditional material, how do you find it? How do you find? So these are the different problems why people choose not to work or engage with the artisans. And I think that there was a question now, and then the common question also. So why do we call construction workers artisans? Why should we call them artisans? They are not artisans, right? They are just construction workers. That's what people say. But I would say their work is a very dedicated work. And if you take your red oxide flooring, or your lime plaster, or your Artangudi tiles, or your terracotta roofing, all that is custom made for you. Like you say, the particular dress someone is wearing is bespoke. It is designed for you. It is custom made for you. It is perfectly done for you. In the same way, these traditional techniques are actually done for you, specifically for you, with your requirements, with your color combinations, with your design requirements. But most of the time, they are not understood, or they're always treated as someone outside. So all the problems which we discussed, why people don't engage with traditional artisans, and the n number of reasons they give, is the first thing is because people think it is difficult. It is difficult because there are not many who practice, and it is not an history of today or tomorrow. Uh, it is from the 1940s to 50s, where the mass production started, and then there are a lot of people engaging. And like, for example, if you want to choose a tile, you want to buy a particular piece of tile, you have a color theme for your design. You go to a shop, you buy a tile. But if when you want to work on a red oxide flooring, or a colored line wash or something like that, you have to engage with them. You don't have a place to actually go and see. So post COVID, will the problems be same, or will there be a change? And I think the change making ability is with us, assuming a lot of us are professionals involved in architecture or construction business. When there are many number of people involved, or want to engage a group of artisans for a project, then there will be a lot of people who want to do it. So I would like to take a small pause. Don't think there are too many questions. Just trying to understand and making it as interesting as possible for you. When I say artisan, what is the first word which comes to your mind? So you can again answer this question in your Slido. When I say artisan, what is the first thing which comes to your mind? Can we go to the question? Hello?
Yeah, TS, the question is live.
Yeah,
The
yes.
question is like,
You can answer the question on the app.
Okay, super. So whenever artisan, so the main thing is to take care of their economic status. And the second one, how to do that? How do we do that? So let's look at 5 pointers on how do we work with the artisans who are, see, we use them in our projects. I would like to use the word use because mostly generally that is used, right? We use them in our projects for two reasons. One, it is very unique, it's very different, and also we feel that, okay, the tradition is the new in thing. Like they say, red is the new green. In the same way, traditional architecture is the new in thing. A lot of them want to engage with artisans because they want it to be unique, right? So in that case, how do we make sure that it is there responsibility, or it is our responsibility to work on, because artisans are the least uh, recognized people in any construction industry. How many of us know the actual names of people? I think most of you would say like, yeah, I know a group of people and I know that, but the livelihood of them is always a question mark. So once we look at the answers for these, the responses from you, then we can go ahead to 5 pointers of how 5 pointers of how do you work with the artisans to make sure. So I'll just share a small example. I'm not telling this is an ideal way to do it, but how we work with few artisans who work on the oxide flooring technique. The easiest way is to help them get insurances. It's to help them stabilize a little bit financially. And it is not a way of charity. Okay, I'm giving them 5,000, I'm giving them 10,000. The best way is to engage them in our projects. It is to make sure that they are economically stable in a small way. If you're working with traditional artisans, the first thing I would ask you is, have you ever tried or asked them if they have a bank account? If they have an account in which they have an insurance, if they have a security in some point. Most of the time, they have a bank account, but their savings will be very nil. So we think that, okay, they do our work, they do this, but financial aspect is something. Uh, is the voice clear? Again, I could hear a lot of noise. So,
Yes, it is clear.
yeah, yeah. So the
Yeah,
thing is
participants,
that,
please mute your mic. Mute your mic. Others, please mute your mic.
okay, there will be enough time to ask questions later, probably. So, you may think that this is like a preaching or something, but I would like to give an example of one artisan cluster we work with. They work with jute, and they also work with recycled plastic. And then another cluster, they worked with making these pottery bags with tailoring waste. So all these three clusters, every time we made a post, this was probably 8 years back. Uh, the other one was 5 years back. So eventually those things were happening. So when we were working with them, the first thing we asked them is, okay, where is your house? What is happening? But most of them didn't have a bank account. So the first thing they ask you in the bank account is to fill your profession. Most of the time they are unclear on where do we fill the profession. Or next thing comes your ID proof. And the pottery bags were made by the people who were staying on the streets. So we had to make sure their livelihood is stable before getting into the art. So our point of working with the art eventually shifted to working with the artisans. Of course, we had a lot of uh, difficulties in doing that, because first our focus was, okay, this particular person is very good at this art, this particular person is very good at this technique, use him in our project, let's work with it. But eventually when you work with them, you realize that their family is in a way not stable, their finances are not stable. So most of the time, after a point, they will not be able to continue their professions at all. So the best way is to make sure we use a lot of them in our project. So this is about the architecture part. About handlooms, this is the time when we can actually pre-order any handloom weaver, anyone working with artisans, or anyone working on art-based products, an artist who is doing fabulous paintings in this time. Pre-ordering is the best way we can do, because charity never works. Charity is very short time. When the age-old proverb says that you give someone rice, they eat it. You teach someone how to harvest it, how to get into agriculture, then it is very useful. So the first point is to engage them in a lot of our projects, maybe in a smaller way, in a bigger way. And the second point is to pre-order if it is a product-based one. And the third way is to make sure they are respected in the site. Because when I told you about the 3 stories, we got a very nice, proper exhibition space in a lot of places in Chennai. One's in Dehradun and one's in Delhi. But the most complaint from the clients, they bought stuff for so much so much money. But the complaint or the feedback they said was they're not able to sell anything. They're not able to tell the story properly. They're not able to talk in English. And I think that's the only advantage we have is the language. Otherwise, the entire set of skill lays with them. So coming back to the point, engaging them, working with them, pre-ordering. And I think these are the two words I want you all to remember. Engaging with an artisan in a large number will reduce the problem of cost. For example, a red oxide flooring is very expensive. A lime plaster is very expensive. Something you hear every time. But it is because not many of them are engaging. Only a small amount of people are engaging. So imagine a lot of people use them in their projects. In the same, it's not that. And also the fourth thing is there isn't any ownership. There isn't any. How do I call it? You can't own a particular art form. You can't own a particular art piece or an artist's work. It is for everybody. And I think as a profession, if there is a cluster working with us, or if there is a group of artisans working with us, it is our important part to work out or to share their skills, their collective skills to everybody else. So talking about the three stories I shared, the pottery bag makers. So we bought the pottery bags from them, and then we sold it in a very niche market in Chennai. And then we were able to get around 3.5 lakhs for 200, 250 bags, which they were selling for 10 rupees a bag. So the difference is very simple. A consumer or someone who wants to buy your artisan projects want it to be packed in a very nice way. And second one, they see who is selling it. Someone who knows English is selling it, or someone who doesn't know English is selling it, or someone who is no, they won't even know if the person is skilled. All what they see is the package. Or sometimes one of the famous economists says that it's mostly like jigna work. Like people just will buy it. They just take it to the point. And these are some ways in which personally we can engage or through our projects. Now, coming back to the serious point, COVID and the different problems which they're going to face. In view of this, November 2019, there were four schemes which the government introduced through the Handicraft Society. One is the Ambedkar scheme, and the other one is your cluster scheme. These two, I look at it as a very important part because when you take a particular art, for example, pottery or something related to food or fabric, it is easy to get a GI tag. Easy in the sense compared to your architectural techniques or technologies, it's easy to get. But for an architectural technique, mostly it is difficult because it is not one artist, it's a cluster of people doing it. Talking about this, just a few days back, the Kadlam Mittai got its GI tag. A lot of people were telling that we have to get it for the different products around and all that. They got it because it was years of work which people did in making sure they got GI. And in that case, the construction or the architectural industry, mostly we look at it at the design level and then the product level. We don't necessarily, or we don't take the effort lot of times to actually engage with the artisans to understand their problem. We always focus on the art or the product or the traditional techniques outcome. We don't engage with the artisan at all. So that always gives a disconnect, and that is the problem why most of the clusters are unknown to us. So having a cooperative of different artisans or having a collective of different artisans it won't take much of your time or your energy, but whatever you do to them will be highly engaging. And you may also think that it is totally unnecessary for us to work or engage with an artisan when a ready-made product is available. The essence of India or essence of a particular geographical space, for example, if you take Tamil Nadu or Madras or Tanjavur or Madurai, anywhere, the essence is how the place looks to your eyes, and what does it make the space or what gives the space. It is the architecture of the space. It's the tangibles and the intangibles which play a major role. So the huge problem which we are going to face after the crisis is over is most of these artisans would have shifted to other places, or they would stop doing what they were doing, or they would be highly in financial trouble. And another point of view is, if all of us saw the n number of migrant workers walking kilometers and kilometers, and personally you would definitely know 60 to 70% of them were involved in construction work. 70% of them, either in terms of your direct construction work or a lot of woodwork, carpentry work, and then a lot of the allied works related to painting work, so many of them. Assuming the construction work is resuming in August, if I say August, how do you think they will come back? How do you think it is going to sustain? And there could have been a small way in which the people who employed them, I will never use the word hire, rather employ is better, employed them or engaged with them for their project. If they would have given us space, I think most of you would have tried to do that for your projects. Made them stay with food and water to stay here, they wouldn't have moved. I mean, it's not just a Chennai thing or a Tamil Nadu thing, it's a pan Indian problem. And it has been a huge, that would play a huge role in the way construction is affected in the next. And then I also had a friend of me telling me that, oh, that's actually very good. All the other language people are gone. We can employ a lot of people who are in Tamil Nadu for this. I think we should a little bit retrospect this point. It is not about which ethnicity or they are from, or which geographical location. I know a lot of my friends who use carpenters who are from North India, and then they feel okay, their skill is very good, especially people who are from Udaipur. Their carving techniques or their edging techniques and all is very good. They use from them. And then I know a lot of friends from there who use a lot of artisan from here when they use fabric in walls. Kanjipuram silk sari, imagine that used as a wallpaper. That was also something which was happening. So I think it should be looked at as a pan-Indian problem, and until and otherwise, as a collective or as a group, if professionals come into this, there is no way there is going to be a change. Because I was someone who was completely complaining about artisans. If you asked me 10 years before, when I just got into practice, I said, okay, they're very expensive, they're not listening. But then once you engage with them, once you talk with them, once you understand the skill set they have, they are the best persons you could actually understand. So this is one. And the second part with these artisans is the raw material. How are we going to transport raw materials for them? Thinking about your someone who does pottery, and then will people be ready to buy these art products after this? Because already we have a mindset. The touch is looked at as a stigma now. Almost so many things changed after COVID, and so there will be this group, or there would be this sector who would say, no, we can't buy because it's very risky, it's very scary to buy it. So that is another problem which we would face. So I think these are n number of problems, and the only way in which we could work together to sustain these artisans, to work with these artisans, it's not for them, it's for us. It's for us to engage. So if you want to use a traditional technique in your building, where will you go and find them? Where will you go and work with them? So it is not about the product. So it's right time we stop seeing the product point of view or the outcome point of view, and look at the livelihood point of view. Once you look at the livelihood of them, then there is a rapport which happens between you and the artisan cluster, and then you work like a family, and then eventually there is a lot of connection which could happen. So if any of you are interested in working with artisan clusters or artist cluster, I can send you different links. Even today, Kamla Basin ma'am has shared a lot of points about labor laws and why it is important, or who is the part, and then the different words which we use. labor, worker, artisans, people who are involved in art, most of the time they are silent. They are nameless and 90% of the time faceless. And before going on to the questions, the final thing I would like to say is that most of the time, not getting recognized is very painful. It's very painful, but not even being seen, that your presence is not even acknowledged, is the most painful thing. I think all of us would have been in that stage in school or college or in work in a lot of places. That is how the artisans have been in a lot of stages. So I would like to just give a recap. So first point is, please pre-order with a lot of artisans you know. It is not about my work or your work, it's the collective work which needs attention. Second, try to use them in a lot of projects after this, because they are the worst hit. And the last point is to help them. If you want to take a little bit step further, try to start a small society for them, or a cooperative for them, or a small cluster for them, or a bank account for them. It's and one of my friend told me that, is are you doing all this because you want their loyalty to be there? I would say it's not about loyalty. It is about consensus. What you give is what you get back, and then the quality of the product. Everything improves because we have to start looking at them first. So for me, it is always the artisans before the art. And art is an outcome, but the quality of life which we give to an artisan is very important when you want to work with a traditional material or an art form, or want to engage with any artist. So we can have questions now.
Uh, Thank you so much, ma'am. We would like to share one last question which we have, which we had
Yes.
from your side, which is there on Slido right now. We would like to
Okay.
hear from our participants. Why do you think people opt for or hesitate to use traditional or native techniques or products in their projects?
You can share the screen so we can look at it too.
Yes, once we get in the polls, we're turning it on.
Yeah. Why do you think people don't opt for? Okay. Okay. Coping, okay, globalization, difficulties, skilled, lack. I think the two main words are naturally highlighted: lack, skilled, and expensive. Proper cost, availability, awareness, thing, showroom, culture, no brand name. That's a very good one. Costly, architect, what do you mean? Disconnect, labor, difficult, purchase, artisan, cultural. Yeah. Okay. So this is the one question I want you to ask everybody you know, not necessarily architects, non-architects as well, because when someone asks me why do you use this technique, you can say a lot of things, but when you say you don't use this technique, we have a list of things to say, right? This is not. And one thing I would like to add, why I was not using a lot of native techniques was because I felt I can't go and check their quality. I didn't have any guidebook which says, okay, this is how it should be, or I didn't know what to go and expect out of it. So that is one thing missing here. But otherwise, yeah, this is one. These are the major reason which we don't use. But I think the reason which we should start using them is also the same thing. They are skilled artisans, but it is our responsibility to make sure that their livelihoods are taken care of. And I speak so much about livelihood, but there was this common question which was asked when we were working with the Garment Floral project. They said, most of the time the quality is bad. Why do you think it is bad? It is mainly bad because we use, for example, I can speak about oxide flooring because we've been working on it. So oxide flooring, it has its timeline, it has its effect, only when you finish the polish with your hands. Hand polish and beeswax and coconut. Once you put a mission over it, the essence of a natural oxide flooring is how much you leave it as it is. But so the compression of your mission will completely tarnish the effect of it. So it is about who is doing the technique as well. And a common question is this mission, using mission. Yes, you can use if you want to polish your stone sometimes. Yes, you can use a mission. But when you talk about your lime washes or lime finishes or lime floors or your oxide flooring, it is always handmade. It's the difference between a sculpture made in hand and then a mission made. Handmade has that essence, right? All of us who have used handloom fabric would know that. That's the difference of it. Uh, the different ways in which people wanted it to be a little easier. They wanted it to be quick. They wanted it to be so fast. So they made sure they use machines. You can, but when you use it, it's not the technique anymore at all. And they use the same machine which they use for stone polishing, which is, I mean, I'm not talking about now. I think 8 years before, when we saw that, we were really shocked. I'm not talking about the small machines which they generally use for polishing, but I saw in a site where they were using the huge granite polishing machine on oxide flooring. It is not an oxide flooring anymore at all. That's the same with many traditional techniques. It is important to work on it. So, if you have any specific questions on engaging with artisans or traditional techniques, or how we were able to work with the community of artisans, I would be happy to answer. So, Esther ma'am, I think she will be reading your questions to
Yes,
me.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Kindly share in your questions to us through Slido, so we will be able to post the questions to all of us.
And then I'm so happy to see a lot of familiar faces as well.
Yeah. Kindly go to the Slido, and next to the polls, you have a question and answer session, so you can kindly leave the questions.
Or they can go in the chat box, or it is better they use Slido, is it?
Yeah, whichever is fine.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We have a question. So, do you
Yes.
educate the artist in creating new idea and marketing and pricing?
Okay. This is one thing. Actually, they educate us on what the technique is and how it is to be done as authentically as possible. But the two words in the question is very important: marketing and packaging, right? So that we just give them a branding exercise where they can have a name. For example, Kattal Kudam is a name which we gave for a cluster. So that we do, but most of the time it is them who educate us on how a particular technique is to be used, or why it should not be used, or what is the problem when you overuse and all that. Yes, we do conduct workshops for them also. The latest one we completed was for terracotta artists from Kanchipuram. Any other questions?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I can see a question. What's happening? But then it went off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can these techniques or be taught to the students?
Uh, yes, it can be done. It depends on which technique. See, today the topic was very general, so I touched upon terracotta and different native techniques in construction as well. Depends on which one. Yes, it can be. If there are a group of like 30, 40 students, we can send them to our yard and they can spend some time with the artisans. They can make a piece depending on the particular art form, and then they can take it. But if you ask me, uh, whether they will be able to master the art or master it, it is a skill which you acquire over time. They can be introduced to it, but it will take time for them to master the particular art form.
Okay.
Any other questions? I can see. Should I answer
Where
or
do we?
you take it
Yes,
away?
ma'am. Where do we find these artisans? Is there a platform to give them an exposure?
Okay, there are a lot of artisan clusters. For example, if you're talking from Chennai, there are different artisan clusters. You have to just go and find them. But if you have a specific art requirement, I can link you up with the set of artisans whom do you want to engage with. But you just go around, you see a lot of them working on multiple art forms without any recognition at all. But yeah, we have an exhibition once a year. Interestingly, I think our engagement with architects is very less. With the general public is very much more. Mostly our engagement with schools and general public. So we do a lot with people outside the architectural fraternity to make them understand about this. So we have had that. But yes, we can work on a platform for that as well. And
Yes,
exposure
ma'am.
is different from getting projects. That's another key point I wanted to add. A lot of people want to come visit the exhibition and all that, but giving project needs an extra kind of an attention.
Yes, ma'am. So we have some more questions in the chat box. We would like to have what's happening in the current trend for artisans.
Current trend, like I said, this has been a blast. This particular situation has been a blast for a lot of us. Like one of our mentors from Madras Literary Society, JMM, was sharing a quote, which was like, "We are all in the same storm, but different boats," which is very, very true. Few of us are struggling, few of us are not able to maintain, few of us are completely caught in the waves, few of us are still working, few of us are engaged, so many engaged with work, so many things which are happening. But current scenario is very tough for them. But after this, how do we ensure their relevance is well known? I think the best thing, as if you're an architect who's asking this question, the best thing is for them to use them in our projects. If it is Lakshmi who's asking the question, I think we spoke about this construction waste. We can work with these artisans on using the construction waste in a very useful format as well. Uh, because construction waste is a major problem, right? We can engage with these artists or artisans on working that as well. Use them in your project. That's the best way you can make them known. Some art forms are locality specific. Example, Koktagiri, Rajasthani art. How do you make use of these artists doing lot and part away from those locations? Thanks for that question, Barun. Thanks for asking. Uh, we had a group of people from an artisan cluster who has got all the remaining products from them. So many products like your art products or your bags. There is a very nice work done by Palakutapalle team. They do nice cloth bags. So all of them are taking pictures of them and sending it in a group. And then once you pre-order now with a particular money, and then they will send it to you after the COVID situation. Um, so this is one way. Pre-ordering is the best way you can see. I one thing I always understood is they never accept anything for free. Okay, even when there was a question and then it went okay. Uh, they don't take things for free. For example, if you give them food for 1 week and then after 1 week they need some, we ask them, they say, no, we have food which is remaining for next 4 days. Don't send food to us. Don't send. So they always feel you engage them in your projects. You give them a lot of work that will help. So for the question about the region specific art, if there is any there are a lot of Facebook pages and artists working on it. I can share the link after this so that you can pre-order them for your projects. Can update on government agency supporting artisan clusters. There is this national handicraft sector, and then there is this National Handicraft Development Program. Their recent Ambedkar program and cluster program, please read upon it. You can find it in the National Handicraft Sector website. Those two things I think have huge potential to develop further because they talk about giving them good quality branding, good quality advertising, and how do you make them sustainable. So this is one thing. But if you ask me architecture specific anything is there, sadly very less. There isn't any government cluster or agency per se for architectural artisanal laborers. That's the exact word.
Very true, ma'am. Ma'am, we have another interesting question which says, do we get a quote from these artisans beforehand, which is required for budgeting, and do they give warranty for their work?
Okay, I think can you someone who has asked the question, can you specify which technique are you talking about, the art or the architectural technique? any specific technique so that I can answer it so others also can benefit out of it. What is the specific technique you're asking for? If you can mention that, I can take the question in that line so that the answer will be very specific.
There isn't a response, ma'am. Can you give us any example
Okay.
for a technique and
For
then we go
example,
forward?
you can take oxide flooring. Okay.
Yes.
There are 18 clusters we personally work with, but there are more than 100 clusters which is who do very good work as well. They do give you a quote. They do give you a lot of money-based reports and all that. But the thing is, it is not the exact kind of BOQ or the bill of or the code which we generally are used to. That's why I said once you start working with the artisans, you can help them out with these things. For example, for these 16 clusters, when they write it in a pencil and then send it to us in WhatsApp, what we do is we type it out with their letterhead and then send it to them so that they give it to their clients. So that's a very small help we do for them. Few of them do it, yes. And about warranty, when you talk about cement or bricks, we generally don't ask about warranty, but I totally accept this point because this was one thing why I was hesitant to use traditional technologies in my projects, because I was very scared whether this will be there for a
Last.
longer time. Yeah, long lasting. We don't know that. So we have done stability tests for certain materials, and what is it called? Stability test, and then your water quality test, and something called sun exposure test as well. So we can share these points with them. So this is specific to oxide flooring. But yeah, they do. But they need help in making it more. Most of them, that is probably, they are heavily skilled on their art part. But this is little difficult. But yeah, they can work on it. People say we are hiring architects to do something new, not the same traditional one. How do you deal with it? First of all, this hiring is one word I always am little apprehensive using it, because hiring is when you work with someone on a temporary base for a small thing. Employees, you get someone to work on your team. Generally, hiring is a word which we use for bus, auto, or a van or something. That's the word we use hiring for. But interestingly, we use hiring in a
Higher.
lot of professions, even for software engineers, even for doctors, we use hire. So hire is a very sensitive word which I don't tend to use more. But yeah, coming back to the question, something new, not same traditional. That is because, see, this is again industrialization, commercialization, and then all we want the new world to look alike, right? Glass, and I'm not someone who's against glass. You can see my this is my studio. You can see glass, you can see wood, you can see granite, you can see a lot of metal. Most of these are reclaimed material, by the way. So you can use all these materials, but that essence of it, like I would like to give the example of Pondicherry. Okay, we have residences like that in Chindadri Pet, we have it in Malapur and Triplicane and a lot of places, but it's all very changed. Why is it not changed in Pondicherry? I have a very senior friend from there. She's a researcher working on colors, different kinds of colors. She said because Pondicherry government understood that that is why people come to Pondicherry and not Madras, because you are same geographically, you're otherwise climate-wise, you both have beaches. But the only essence there in Pondicherry is the White Town and the Tamil Town, and they still have the essence of heritage in them. So people would prefer to go there. Your backdrops and movies and all that. So that is one thing I feel that they understood. But now I think it's a niche area. Okay, so about the other question, yes, we have to engage with them too. It's not that you don't have to have anything modern. Like my house is completely run on solar. It's not necessarily that I use traditional technology. I shouldn't use any other modern technique. We can use it as well. With this super fast evolving world, do you think the artisans are really important for the enhancement of Indianness? Okay, thanks for the question. Without the artisans, I don't think there is any Indianness. Without the art or the artisans or engaging with them, there isn't any Indianness, because it is like a circle, a small, a story maybe. Industrialization, commercialization, after the 60s and 70s, a lot of things changed. Food became fast food, fabric became fast fabric. traditional building became mass building. So many things here, but now 2020 but if you see from 2015, you see a change of people getting back to organic wood, getting back to organic cotton or khadi. You can see a lot of people getting back to traditional material. It's like a cycle. And if you're talking about money and products, when you talk about money or economics and all that, artisans and traditional techniques is a place where lot of money is also involved. It depends on where you use it, how do you market it, where do you place it. And I don't think without the artisans, even if the art is there, there isn't any Indianness at all. Ma'am, was it difficult for you to convince your client when you are using artisans instead of getting things ready-made in market? It was difficult initially, but one technique we started using now is inviting them to our projects.
Yes.
So the
Once they
first
get a
meeting
look and feel of the project, then that's
yeah,
when they get better.
yeah. Anyone, the first meeting of project will happen in the terrace in one of our projects, or in one of the Mutram or Talvaram in one of our projects, or in the garden of one of our projects. So eventually they understand, okay, there is this airflow, there is this climate difference, there is this touch and feel. And then they go back to old stories. Okay, this is how it was in my grandmother's house. This is how it was in my friend's house. And then they get back to it. The best thing is to take them to different projects. They will eventually understand. Of course, it is difficult, but yes, they will accept.
Yes, ma'am. We have one question. Will you be able to take up the responsibility to become an ambassador to link architecture students and artisans as a beginning of awareness through workshops, maybe an yearly event to schools and colleges?
Definitely, yes, we do that. But like I said in the beginning, it's a long time since my interaction with the architecture fraternity was there. We engage with a lot of school children, because one thing I understood is you try to create awareness to someone who is 60. You get 20 years of time, but try to get awareness to someone who is 3. You get 65 years of your time. So we engage a lot with children. But of course, yes, if you to quote, I take the responsibility to create the awareness. I don't know who asked that question, but it was a very serious question. But yeah, that would be totally my pleasure, because I trust my artisan 100%, my cluster. So yeah, I take that responsibility. How an expert artisan transferred this knowledge to the next generation? This is a very good question, because a lot of the children, 8 years before, when we went, the first question they asked me, a few of the artisans, was, என்னமா நல்லா படிச்ச மாதிரி இருக்கு, ஆர் ஃபாரின்லாம் போயிட்டு அந்த மாதிரி போயிட்டு வந்திருக்கேன்லாம் சொல்றீங்க, ஏன் நீங்க இந்த மாதிரி மண்ணு கல்லுல எல்லாம் வேலை பார்க்கணுன்றீங்கன்னு. To translate it into English, one of the artisans asked us 8 years before, why do you want to work with mud and all this? You seem like you've been educated. You said you're from abroad. You've studied abroad. Why do you want to do this? I think as far as you go, as much as you want to get closer. And while he was telling that, he said, no, I strictly told my son and daughter not to get into this. And I think they say that because we have taken the finances out of it, no? Completely, we have taken them out of the equation. Finance in the equation, we have not given to the artists, and how do we expect them to be stressed? Now a lot of people are getting into organic farming, because onion, which is 25, organic, they can sell it for 125. But earlier, what is the stability of it? In the same way, if artisans are stable enough, like the different tests I told you we do for different traditional materials, 7 of my artisans' children are completing architecture this year. 2 of them completed last year. So I think that's one thing they would like to do. You give them the financial. See, once there is financial freedom or financial strength, you are able to do anything for the people. Say that, no, I travel and then I work on different projects, and then I do that, and all that. That's all. The root is financial stability, some amount of financial stability. Without that, it's very difficult. You give that to them, they will be ready to engage their children in this project. That's a very nice question. Will the architecture of the future include integration of traditional techniques and materials in construction, retracing back to our steps? I think one thing I was very happy about the introduction was most of them introduced us as people who revived red oxide flooring. No, we didn't. We just introduced it to a new set of people, that is all. So answering your question, works of architect Satya Prakash Varnasi, DD contractor, works of Lottie Baker, and then so many other architects. I'm mentioning these three only. There are many others also. These three mainly because they made sure they always engage with the artisans in a right way. That's why they were able to get the credibility of the artisans. They were able to work on Didi Contractor, I think, is 93 and she's still practicing, right? And then architect Varun, his ideology on working hands-on, he actually builds his design hands-on. So there are so many architects who are working on that. But the point is, you start using it and then you start appreciating it more. You have to start that appreciation first. So I think there is a good example already. We just have to look around.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. So that was quite an interesting session with you. So we understood the base of the artisans, or how the importance of having to incorporate them into our projects and supporting them throughout our life cycle as an architect itself is very important to continue the techniques and materials into the future and portray ourselves along those lines. It's been a very nice chat with you, and I'm sure all the alumni of SRM is really proud to have you here and also to connect with you on a continuous basis. And we will stay connected towards all the alumni sessions following for the next 15 days. Thank you so much, ma'am. I
Thank
would
you.
like to hand over the session to Narayani.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, TS.
Hi.
It was, yeah,
Yes.
very, very good session indeed. Very interesting and thoughtful session. One last question. What is the
Yes.
take back for the architectural students from the entire session?
I think
What would you like
not
to
just
tell them?
architectural students or architects, or for anyone, my thing is look around, try to engage with people who are working on our projects, or try to look at the artisans as equals. And then once you start looking them, you will understand how important they are. So just look around and be sensible and also sensitive when you deal with traditional materials and techniques.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Uh,
thank you.
yes. So, with this, I think we are coming to the end of the first session. And actually, for architects, we are right on time and schedule. I would like all the participants who are here to check on the chat box for your e-certificate link. So kindly fill the Google Forms if you're interested in your e-certificate. And also, please stay tuned in for tomorrow's session. Tomorrow, the session is going to be from Krishna Kishore from the batch of 2003 and 2008. So I hope all of you had a wonderful session. Thank you, participants. And thank you, TS, for that wonderful session. And yeah, Esther for
Thank you
the
so much.
Yeah,
moderation as
yes.
well.
Thank you so much,
And
Narani. We look forward to all the alumni of SRM to be a part of our research team, PhD team, which we are quite active, and also any designers who are abroad, located throughout the world, to please connect to us. This is a platform which we have started through Alumni Connect to keep it really active and going through. Adjunct architects who can join us and contribute to the studios and the empowerment of our students is really looked forward for your support.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
yes, for all those who are tuned in, you can again register for tomorrow's session on the same link that was given prior. The e-invite for Gmeet will be sent via mail to you guys. Thank you all. Thank you, participants, for being a wonderful audience.
Thank you so
Have a great
much.
day.
Kindly fill the G form for us. Thank you so much. See you in another interesting session tomorrow.
Even turn before you can log out, the Slido will run feedback. So you, if you're available, please try to fill the feedback for us. The feedback will run for another hour, so you can log in and fill the feedback. Thank you.
We're getting comments. Come. Thank you. Go to session. Dean, go to session. Wait till time.